What in the world is going on with Capcom, man? I don't understand what's going on lately with them. This is about Capcom and the Switch. It's such a weird situation. There's been a whole string of stuff that's made me really question if, like, there's something going on behind the scenes that they're not talking about. I'm gonna walk you through a little bit of it and then just discuss the whole situation in general. So when we saw that big event Nintendo did for the Switch before it came out, we saw a sneak peek of Ultra Street Fighter 2. And we were like, oh, that's it, Capcom. Capcom's going to be on the system. That's good to see. You know, Capcom's a big third-party developer, so you want to see that support there. So that was good news. And then it seems like everything after that, minus one thing, has really rubbed fans the wrong way, Switch fans, that is. They're trying to figure out what the hell Capcom's stance on the platform is. But back in the day, I speak like it's years ago, you know, a few months ago, when Capcom said they were bringing Ultra Street Fighter 2 to the Switch, we thought everything was going to be good. And there was an article about how Capcom and Nintendo were talking about the Switch, and Capcom's like, hey, can you up the RAM in the Switch before you put this sucker out? Because we want more RAM for one of our engines. And Nintendo was like, oh, alright, we'll put more RAM in this sucker. So obviously Nintendo was working closely with Capcom, and I'm sure other third parties, but closely with them to say like, hey, what do you guys want in the Switch? This is what we're thinking about doing. And Capcom was like, we want more RAM. And Nintendo said, okay, we can do more RAM. So, you know, that would lead you to believe like, okay, Capcom's like really on board here. They know a lot about the system, they asked for something and they're getting it, so, you know, future support should be good, but here we are and it seems the opposite. Things started to sour for fans when we got to the Disney Afternoon Collection, because everybody was like, oh look, a collection of games that were on the Nintendo Entertainment System made by Capcom through a partnership with Disney. What fond memories I have of playing those games on the NES. Oh, by the way, this isn't coming to Switch or 3DS, but we're focusing on Switch here. And I was like, oh, what? Why? Seems like, you know, you would at least bring the games to the platform holder that originally had the platform that you released those games on. So Nintendo's still around, they have the Switch. Nintendo was around when you put these games out the first time on the NES. You would think that'd be a lock, but I guess not. So that happened, and I'm like, well, that really does suck, but, you know, what are you gonna do? Whatever, I'll just, you know, I'll let it slide. It's just a collection of games. And, you know, I wasn't expecting this to be a point that kept coming up, but here we are. Then Capcom announced the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, and that came out on a 3DS. Not coming out on... The first one came out on a 3DS. This one is not coming out on a 3DS. And once again, this one isn't coming out on Switch. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. Another game collection that is from Capcom that isn't coming out on a Switch, that includes games that were originally on Nintendo platforms. That one really irked me. I'm like, something is going on here. And you know, Capcom wasn't really talking about it at all, so over on Go Nintendo, I said I was going to reach out to Capcom and get a statement on the matter. So I talked to a whole bunch of people before I got to one that would actually get me a statement from Capcom, and I got one. I shared this on Go Nintendo a while ago. I don't think I talked about it on the YouTube channel. But here's Capcom's official statement. I said, hey, why isn't Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 coming to Switch or 3DS? And they said, there are no plans for a Switch or 3DS version at this time. Right now we're focusing on developing the game for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. Then furthermore, the rep that I was talking to said there's no further information available on this subject at this time, which was them saying, don't ask anymore because we don't have anything and we're not going to tell you anything. So the response is pretty much a non-response. I was asking for why, and they just said there's no plans. I knew there were no plans when you put out the press release. Wanted to know why. I didn't get that, and they gave me a basic, well, don't ask for more information because you're not going to get it. So after I read that, I was like, oh man, I think I'm more upset than I was before when I only found out the game wasn't coming to the Switch. So, you know, from there on, I've been watching very closely to see what Capcom's doing, and then we get into this whole Monster Hunter Double Cross conversation that's going on. So, Monster Hunter Double Cross was announced for the Switch in Japan, and fans were like, oh, thank God, finally Capcom's swinging the other way. They're bringing something else to the Switch. And, you know, we thought this would be a lock for localization, but Doesn't seem to be the case. A community manager for Capcom UK was on Twitter talking about this because somebody asked them. This is a few days ago. And the community manager said, we're 100% focused on Monster Hunter World. So Monster Hunter World is the new Monster Hunter game announced for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Not coming to the Switch. He says, we're 100% focused on World for Western audiences. Yes, this is the next main title. We have nothing to announce for Switch currently. So there you go again, that same kind of statement comes up. It's almost like, you know, Capcom spread a message very specifically and they're like, listen, when people ask you about Switch games, this is what you say. You do not stray from this line. So people were getting a little worried when they heard that. And then things went even further. GameSpot today had a feature up talking about Monster Hunter Double Cross because fans were like, what the hell, why isn't this coming to the Switch in North America or Europe? And GameSpot said, this is their feature word for word. GameSpot said, Capcom confirmed to GameSpot that it has no plans to localize the recently announced Switch version of Monster Hunter Double Cross. So it went from, you know, it went from bad to worse, basically. So we read that and we're like, no plans, why? Why won't you tell us? Like, give us a reason. It's so annoying to hear that there's no plans without an explanation. If I heard there were no plans and you gave me a reason like, we don't have the money, we don't have the time to localize it, we don't think it'll be worth our effort because of the install base, those reasons may still make me sad, but at the very least, I would have a reason. I would be happier having a reason, even if I don't like that reason, even if that reason is stupid. At least they're telling me a specific reason as to why they're not doing it. So that went on earlier today, and then Capcom took to Twitter and they replied to GameSpot's article. So on Twitter, GameSpot sent out a tweet for this article with the information I just mentioned to you. Then the official Monster Hunter Twitter account replied to that story and said, just to clarify, our response is we have not announced any plans to localize Monster Hunter Double Cross at this time. So, how much more confusing can this get? GameSpot said that Capcom told them no plans to localize the game, and Capcom is like, hey guys, we didn't say that. We said we have not announced any plans to localize. So does that mean it is coming? Like, at this point the message is so confusing, like I don't know what to make of it. For them to reply to that tweet with what they said, our official response is that we have not announced any plans to localize Monster Hunter Double Cross. So, like, why not just say something more like, hey fans, stay tuned, we'll give you more details at a later date. But this is just such like a wishy-washy response. Like, if they're not localizing it, I don't see the need for them to follow it up. If they are localizing it, then I see the need to follow it up. But they followed it up with such a weird response. The whole thing is a mess. Now, I can appreciate that I am an idiot when it comes to the inner workings of the game industry. There are certain things I certainly know, but by and large, I don't know what it's like to develop games and form contracts with other companies and publishing deals and all that stuff. So, for all I know, Monster Hunter Double Cross could be coming to the Switch and the 3DS in North America and Europe, and it's a deal with Nintendo, and they're not allowed to talk about it yet because Nintendo wants to do something a different way, or they're still working out a deal, or, you know, that, sure, I could understand all that stuff, and then that makes this situation a little more understandable for Capcom. But the problem is, we had one thing after the other, and this particular Monster Hunter comment just has been so confusing all across the board that fans have gotten really fed up and are left questioning what Capcom's approach on the Switch is, because as of right now, we got Ultra Street Fighter 2 and then Monster Hunter Double Cross Switch in Japan, and that's it. We haven't heard anything. So with the information I told you earlier about how closely Nintendo and Capcom were working at least to build the Switch in some ways, you would think there'd be more going on. I don't know. You know, the optimist in me is like, well, maybe they do have a deal and they just can't talk about it. Maybe there's another event coming up where it's going to be a big deal, a big blowout for the game. They're going to announce a whole bunch of different stuff. I don't know. That's the optimist in me. But, you know, I also look at it and I say it's just such a strange way to handle the situation, and we can't get any reasons as to why stuff like the Disney Afternoon Collection and Mega Man Legends, whatever it's called, Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 isn't coming to the Switch. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think about the whole situation? Is there something going on between Capcom and Nintendo, and they're just not ready to announce it yet? Is there something going on between the two companies that's not good, and there's some issue? And I know people are going to bring up that rumor that was on 4chan about Sony getting exclusive rights to the next Monster Hunter and paying them a lot of money and keeping Monster Hunter off Nintendo platforms, blah, 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 blah. I read the rumor. I'm not going to get into any of that as far as legitimately considering it as a reason, because I don't know. But I just know that if I didn't say that, people were going to bring that up. So now that you've heard the whole story, or at least the story we were given, what do you think? Is Capcom going to be there for the Switch, or are they going to continue to give us this strange response and just announce games that seem like a good fit for Switch and not bring them over? Hit me up in the comments, let me know, and I will definitely check out what you guys have to say. Hey guys, RMC here from Go Nintendo. If you like what you saw in the video, why don't you give us a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe? We'd love to have you. If you want to see what else we're up to, you can check out GoNintendo.com for 24-hour Nintendo news. You can visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/GoNintendo. You can check us out on Twitter at twitter.com/GoNintendoTweet. And we're even over on Instagram at instagram.com/GoNintendo. I put all the links in the description just to make it easier for you guys to follow. Thanks a lot!